last time we chatted, I was berating a PR person who kept telling me to wrap up during the Wolf Like Me and junk. I just love publicists who are so subtle with their chat button, just telling me to wrap. My God, I see the chat button. I see you, Junket. And you thought that was hysterical. You really boosted my ego that day, sir, and really was a highlight. So I just wanted to begin by thanking you for that.
It is my pleasure. They had no right to rush you off. You were passionate about your questions, and I. It always bums me out that we can't give everybody the time that they need. It's never ideal.
Well, I'm just quite frankly surprised we're even doing this. I thought for sure there'd be some sort of injunction at some point because of what happened that day. That the
I had them lift it. I was like, there's a time to forgive and forget, and this is it. This is
you
that time.
you are all about forgiveness, sir, and I do appreciate that. Now, when I told my son that I was speaking to the man who voices Olaf, couldn't have cared less. But when I told him it was Mulch Diggums,
That did it.
no, he watches the movie religiously. He were like his favorite character.
Oh, that's amazing.
No,
He's the
not
one.
I know. Oh, he what was that?
I said, oh, he's the one.
Oh no. I'm sure there are others, but like he thinks you hung the moon. So, in fact, he's hiding in a corner right now to make sure that he doesn't get on camera. Yeah, he begged to kind of take a peek at the Mulch Diggums, so he's kind of over on this side. But I'm not bringing him on camera because we got to knock this out. So, but I do appreciate you saying something. So you've had a busy year. I mean, you do know when to take a break, right? I mean, you've been doing a little bit of everything. I mean, has it been a lot to do these multiple projects?
It was, which is why I actually took a break. My kids were starting to forget I was their father, so I decided that it was time to sort of take a little hiatus, as it were, and become a stay-at-home dad. And it's been incredibly rewarding. I'm actually coaching volleyball right now as my day job, so that's pretty thrilling. I'm not nearly as good at that as my day job, but it's been lovely to sort of have a little bit of time to just be present and be with the girls.
Would you describe your coaching style as Bobby Knight-esque?
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely chairs that are thrown. I expect a lot from these 11 and 12-year-olds. They're no, it's what you would imagine if Olaf was a volleyball coach. It's a lot of pep talks and telling people, promising people candy if they win.
Okay.
Mostly bribes. That's the extent of it. I actually don't understand the game at all. I'm just like, hey guys, just hit the ball. Don't let
Yeah,
it
I
fly.
mean, you would be the perfect coach at that point because I know about as much about volleyball as you do.
Yeah.
But in terms of the list of things that we should cover, the one thing that really sticks out to me that we're going to start off with here is Wolf Like Me. Okay.
Oh,
Well, Wolf Like Me, when people saw the release that you were doing Wolf Like Me, and it was such a departure, people kind of did a double take, but you did this series. It's something we've never seen you in before, and you knocked it out of the park. So I guess my first question is, what drew you to the project? Why did you decide to take a leap of faith in a different direction?
well, what drew me to the project was the incredibly unique uh, storytelling that Abe Forsyth, the writer director, had put down on the page. Frankly, I was not really interested in working at the time because we were in the midst of COVID. The idea of leaving my family and going to Australia for a few months, which was uh, a non-starter for travel because of a 2 week window that you had to quarantine in, was really not ideal. And so I was looking for any reason to say no. And when I read the script, I was so angry because I fell in love with it and knew I had to do it. Abe is he's one of a kind. Having worked with him on a movie a few years back with Lupita Nyong'o called Little Monsters, I fell in love with him and he's been an incredible partner and muse, and this was a journey I really felt I had to take. And also, frankly, I have always wanted to work with Isla, and it was just the perfect vehicle to do that.
There's no predicting when it comes to his projects, that's for sure. You're taking a look at Little Monsters and Wolf Like Me, and anybody who goes into Wolf Like Me thinking they can predict how that story is going to go, again, if you have not seen it, go to Peacock. It's there right now, and it's going to catch you off guard. It's another side of Josh that we haven't seen, and you're dark as hell in this, and this might take some people by shock. But it's a fantastic performance. Now, how do you prepare to take on such a dark role?
Well, you do the work as you would for anything else, and for me that started with connecting to the parts of Gary that I knew, which were, um, that idea of loss is something that has hit all of us at one point or another. And being a father now of two girls, I was at a point in my life where I sort of kind of understood the nature of what it would mean to have such a seismic change in my life if, God forbid, anything happened to my partner. Um, there's also a relatability because I grew up with a single mom. I knew that, that deep desire to protect your child at all costs, but also open yourself up to the possibilities of what's out there, even if those possibilities are scary as hell. And that just felt like something I knew how to tap into, and it was an emotional journey for sure, but one that also afforded me the opportunity to lean into muscles that I don't always get a chance to lean into.
I mean, between Little Monsters and this, I mean, I would think more people would want to see you in these type of projects because I love doing Little Monsters. You were quite the dick in that movie, and you were. I hate to be like that. You were the best type of dick in that movie, and you again darken Wolf Like Me, and you did a fantastic performance, and it was a side of you that, quite frankly, people need to take notice of, and I think appreciate. And Isla was probably a great screen partner too.
Isla is one of the best screen partners I've ever had. She's always present to the degree that like anything goes, and anything you throw her way, she'll take and make sure that the ball stays in the air. To borrow um, an analogy from my other day job, which is volleyball coach. I truly, truly, truly love her. I cannot wait to go back to Australia in a couple of weeks to start season two, just because it feels like there's still so much story to tell here. And having read the scripts, I can tell you that I think it's safe to say season two is even uh, better and more exciting and more insane and unexpected than season one. And I'm excited to lean into to Gary again and go on this unpredictable journey ahead.
I'm not even going to ask you for any sort of hints as to what happens because where he zigs, he'll actually zag. So there's no predicting what's going to happen. We're just going to let it wash over us like a wave. Now that had to be a sort of a daunting experience to go in a different direction. Speaking of another direction that you're, I guess, accustomed to, how about working with Larry David this year? I mean, that had to have been a little bit nerve wracking.
I have been the biggest Curb Your Enthusiasm fan um, from day one. It was one of those things that it saw me. Like I just felt so heard and seen, and as a neurotic Jew myself, I just related to it on another level. Larry and I had talked a couple of years back about doing another thing on the show, and it didn't quite work out because of my schedule. And when he called me during the pandemic and asked me to do this, of course, my initial response was I would love to, but I'm really worried about COVID because I'm that guy. And he goes, Josh, the median age on our show is 75. Trust me, this is the safest place you can possibly be, which is a perfect Larry response. So I said yes. And what I loved about the character was so often on Curb, a celebrity comes in and is there as a foil to Larry. And in this case, I was that rare character who had something to learn from Larry, and grow from that education in all the wrong ways. And I just thought that that was so wonderful because it's rare that you get to be vulnerable in that way on the show. So it was just a blast. Other than having to put on that pair of underwear, that was really terrifying to me, and I'm sure anyone who watched.
Now, is there even, I mean, there has to be some sort of like outline, a script or something when you go into Curb, but I mean, Larry's obviously known for going off in his own direction. Did that happen a lot when you filmed, or I mean, did you guys work it out
I
and just kind of film?
All of the above. I mean, you really, again, it's a trust exercise with him where there's a roadmap for sure, but it goes so beyond that. So you once you're in the scene, you just follow Larry's lead, and it'll go to some insane, unexpected places, and you know that you're in the hands of a master, and so you just go with it. And in the case of this particular guest star role, there were so many takes when the scene should have ended but kept going because Larry and I were just bouncing back and forth off of each other in some crazy, batshit crazy ways.
So is this comedy nirvana in a nutshell, going at it in that regard with Larry David? Because I mean, my God, that had you had to be pinching yourself.
I'm so spoiled. I mean, I grew up being such a consumer and student of comedy greats, and to having now had the opportunity to work with and learn from people like Jon Stewart when I was on The Daily Show, or Trey and Matt when I was doing Mormon, or Billy Crystal when I was doing The Comedians, or even just for the short time that I got to spend with Larry on Curb, learning from Larry, and coincidentally from Armando Iannucci on Avenue 5. You just at a certain point, when you are working with the best, you can't help but do your best. And that has been the gift that I've been fortunate enough to have in my career, where I've had an opportunity to learn from the best, and try to do, in turn, uh, do everything I can to make sure I'm worthy of the space that I share.
Who was more intimidating the first time you met him, Billy Crystal or Larry David?
Oh, easily Billy Crystal. I mean, Larry is just, he's so delightfully who he appears to be, that you just, there's that approachability. Billy was such a titanic presence in my childhood. I would watch City Slickers on a like a weekly basis. I watched Mr. Saturday Night, and that iconic 1984 or 1985 SNL cast of he and Martin Short. I would watch Comic Relief, and I was just like, he and Robin and those guys were who I longed to be to a certain extent. So getting to share a screen with Billy was one of the most intimidating things I've ever uh, done, and also played so perfectly into that show because it really was about this generational disconnect between two guys who admired the hell out of each other but didn't quite understand each other. Um, and in but they're all intimidating. I remember when I worked with on the Daily Show, you would pitch a piece to John, and he had this gumball machine in his office, and he would sit there and he would chew gum and he would read the pitch outline. and he would dissect it in silence for 5 minutes, and you knew you were either going to die on the vine in that moment, or it was going to be an opportunity to have somebody who is sort of like John Nash Beautiful Mind comedy style, go through and tell you how to make it the best it can be. And it was just those moments with these guys are always as intimidating as you would imagine, because you know they're the best for a reason, and you know that you're not nearly good enough to be in their zip code. So I definitely always go in um, with a sense of I belong, but I also have so much to learn.
It's almost as if in your career you haven't had a chance to really realize what was happening. You've just been like, well, shit, I gotta keep going. I gotta live up to this level. I gotta keep working on getting better and better. And you're just having to elevate your game because of the people you're surrounding yourself with. And every time you not only meet it, you exceed it, and that's why you are where you are today. I mean, I can't think of a false note in the projects you've picked. I mean, you've gone from Curb, Wolf Like Me to Curb, and then we talk about Central Park. Okay, an animated series. Who has the guts to do an animated series like that? Write its own songs and just kind of and bring this like multitude of talent to a cast. I mean, that's about as gutsy as it comes. But for you, I guess it's second nature.
I try to do that which I'm most passionate about and that which I find most challenging. And yes, mounting an animated musical has been one of the more challenging things I've ever taken on. But at the end of the day, I find that those are the most rewarding, because when you're most scared, you tend to do your best work. When it comes easy, you tend to settle. And I always sort of look for the challenge and the thing that scares me or terrifies me the most, because I know it's going to allow me to rise to the occasion and hopefully, um, meet and match and exceed my own expectations for myself.
Hold on a second. Sorry about that. There are people watching this who are striving to be comedy writers and are probably curious about your process for writing such an intricate show, because you're not just writing dialogue in Central Park, you're writing these musical numbers, and they've got to hit. Okay, I mean, there's no room for error. You can't be like, oh, whoopsies. If they don't hit, people turn it off, don't they? So, what's your process? Do you start by writing the dialogue, then the songs, or is it the songs and the dialogue, or does it just happen?
Well, in Central Park, the key to that is I'm surrounded by people who are far superior to me in every way, shape, and form. Whether it's the writers, whether it's Lauren Bouchard, my creative partner, obviously the mastermind behind Bob's Burgers, and or whether it's the incredible composers from Kate and Elisa, who are sort of seminal writers, to Bobby and Kristen, to Danny Elfman, to you name it, the Cyndi Lauper. The people that have come and surrounded me have protected me from myself. And so part of, you know, the opportunity of something like that is to know when to raise your hand and also know when to step back. And once we got into the rhythm of what the show wanted to be and what it needed to be, I was really comfortable sort of allowing the people who have since kind of taken the reins, especially in the case of Stephen and Kelvin, our showrunners, and it's now a well-oiled machine, right? They know sort of what we're looking for and how to meet the challenge. When it comes to Central Park, we always start with kind of the outline of what we want the Tillerman family, uh, against the backdrop of this looming threat of Bitsy, Brendan Ham, and Helen, played brilliantly by David and Stanley Tucci, where we want them to grow over the course of the season and on a micro level, in every episode. Once we've identified that, then we sort of ask ourselves what needs to sing, what wants to sing, and not in a way that's going to feel expository or it doesn't, it's unessential. But where do these characters feel like in order to make their emotional point, where do they have to grow through music? And once we have those pieces in place, we then take it to the right composers and say, marry your sound to our show. And as long as you do X, Y, and Z for the purposes of our plot and our characters, it'll all work. It's never really failed us. That from a creative standpoint, uh, that method has always worked in our favor. And I can say with confidence that season 3 is our best season yet. I think it is. It's just so special, and now it feels like we're firing on all cylinders.
You look at your proposed cast and the characters you referred to, the antagonists, if you will. At what point was it in your head that you went, David and Tucci, that's who we need for those characters? Because when I first heard them, before I looked at the cast during season 1, I was like, who the hell is voicing those? And I said, holy shit, it's those two. I mean, I don't it walked me through how you knew it was David and Tucci for those two roles.
You know, the truth is it they were the ones who made me laugh the most when I imagined that vocal pairing. And the other truth is that they both exceeded my every expectation. Lauren and I sort of started the process with who do we want to work with, and then kind of worked backwards and built characters around our like dream cast. I've always called them the Avengers of musical theater. And it really worked in our favor. And you know, aside from David and Stanley, having people as gifted, as talented, and as um, willing to play as Catherine Hahn, Emmy Raver Lampman, Leslie Odom Jr., Titus Burgess, and Rory O'Malley, it sort of makes your job easy or easier. I'll also say, having Kristen Bell come back and join us for season 3 has been such a joy. And it's just when you're surrounded by greatness, again, it makes you strive in turn to do the best work you're capable of. And that's been the process on Central Park, is we're like, okay, we've got too good of a group to ever fail them in any way. So it's a lot of sleepless nights from, a creative standpoint, but we've really been proud of the product in every way.